Gaelic or Gaelic? I mean, that's really what you want to know, right? Like, what is Gaelic or Gaelic or whatever you're supposed to call it? And what's the difference between Irish Gaelic and Scottish Gaelic, if there's a difference? And what are the ways that Gaelic is different from English? What makes it unique? And what does it sound like? Well, that's what we're going to cover in today's video. In case you're not already familiar with me and my channel, I am an American living in North Carolina, born and bred, and I have a lot of Scottish ancestry, and so I decided, amongst some of the other languages I've been learning, to learn Scottish Gaelic and also to teach Scottish Gaelic to my children. And so this is what I wanted to share to all of you who might not know anything about Gaelic and might have always just wondered, well, what is Gaelic and how does that work? So that's what we're going to get into today.
If you live in the United States or another country outside of Scotland, you might see this word and pronounce it Gaelic. And that's kind of confusing since the native language in Ireland can also sometimes be referred to as Gaelic. So in this video, I'm going to refer to Scottish Gaelic using the native pronunciation, which is Gaelic. And this is how you'll hear it pronounced in English most of the time, even if you're in Scotland. If you want to refer to the language of Ireland rather than Scotland, then just say Irish.
Yes, Ireland does have a language. It's called Irish. When we talk about it in Irish, we say Gaeilge, and it's not Gaelic because that's Scots Gaelic. Okay, got it? Good.
In fact, I actually made a video reacting to an Irish speaker discussing the differences and similarities between Gaeilge and Gaelic. And you can watch that right up here later.
Now, when you think Scotland, you might think that they speak English in Scotland. Of course they do. They speak Scottish accented English there. And they've got their own, specific set of vocabulary and accents and things like that. And there's also the Scots language as well, which is closer to Middle English than it is to Gaelic. So English and Scots are both Germanic languages, but Gaelic is a Celtic language. Now, what does that mean?
Celtic languages are typically divided by linguists into two different branches, the Gàidhlig and the Brythonic branches. They're kind of known respectively as Q Celtic and P Celtic. So the Gàidhlig or Q Celtic would include Irish, Scottish Gaelic, and Manx. And then the Brythonic or P Celtic would include Pictish, which is extinct, Cumbric, which is also extinct, and then Welsh, Cornish, and Breton. And so you're like, Q and P, why is it called that? Well, that just refers to how some of the consonants in the languages kind of diverged over time. There used to be this common Celtic, primitive Celtic language. And then as they kind of diverged, there were some of the same words that took on slightly different sounds. So for example, the word for head in Welsh is pen, so it has that p sound at the beginning, but then in Gaelic it's ciaun, has a k sound at the beginning, so you kind of P and Q. Same thing with the word for sun. In Welsh that's ap or mab, depending on the context, so it's got p, b kind of sound, and then in Gaelic it is mach, so you can hear that k at the end there. Now, there are, of course, other sound differences and other consonant changes and things like that between the Q Celtic and P Celtic branches, but suffice to say that these cousin languages all share a common linguistic origin.
Gaelic riest. Dorstug, coffee, she. I guess. The Capadi, also Gaelic Inish. A coffee blasta akam. Now that you know what Gaelic sounds like, let's talk a little bit more about how Gaelic is different and what makes it unique from other Celtic languages.
Now, Gaelic usually puts the emphasis on the first syllable of the word, and it has a lot of the same consonants that you're used to in other Indo-European languages, but it has a few that you might not be used to. And interestingly, these are sometimes, but not always, found at the end of words. So, for example, the one that you probably have already heard of is the ch sound, like in loch, like the Loch Ness monster. Loch. But then there's also ch, where you have the ch and then a k at the end of it, and that's usually indicated by the letters CHD, like in the words och for 8 or pibrach for piping or bagpipes. There's also a softer version of the ch sound, which I think I've heard in German as well, and that is this ich sound, and you can hear that in a word for sheep. Küdi. And lastly, this kind of sh-t sound at the end of a word, usually indicated by an RD or an RT, like in the words arsht and orsht. Now, just because I'm explaining all of this does not mean that I'm an expert yet. I'm still learning myself. And I'm going to tell you, the spelling is notoriously difficult in Gaelic if you're a native English speaker. If you're a native Gaelic speaker, then it's just how things work. But for an English speaker, it's definitely a little bit of an adjustment. So I like to call Gaelic the French of Celtic languages, not because it's similar to French in the way it sounds or anything, but just because when you look at a word and you see how it's spelled and try to pronounce it with English phonetics, you'll be very wrong. And is that bad? No. It just means that it's not English, right? You have to use a different set of phonetic rules. And so here are some examples of what I mean. Slinte? Slinte? Slancha. Teth. Teth. Che. Dobharan. Dobharan. Dobharan? Doran. Rioitiak. Rioitiak. Rioitiak? Riochak. Intiniach. Intiniach. Inchinyach. Kuib Helichian. Kuib Helichian. Kuilichin. Lieb Harichian. Lieb Harichian. Laudichin. Oh, an entire sentence. Okay. Ambisibha ans and eagleis my reach? Am I reach? Ambishiv antoneklashamadach? There are far fewer exceptions to Gaelic orthography rules compared to English. What that means is, even though it seems more complicated than English because you're not used to it, it's actually more consistent than English spelling. And if English is not your first language, then you'll know exactly what I mean about English spelling being weirdly confusing. But now that I've gotten used to how spelling works in Gaelic, I'm kind of getting better at remembering how to spell words. Another interesting thing about Gaelic is its use of compound words. Gaelic has some super fun compound words when you look at their literal meanings. And so in that way, Gaelic is actually sometimes a bit like English, in that it kind of takes these two words and puts them together just to make this new Franken word. But it's different than the way English does it. So here's some examples of what I mean. A word for whale is muchgvada. Muchgvada. But that literally means sea pig. Or mahar ushka. Mahar ushka means water source, but that literally means water mother. Or how about the word for butterfly? Ironically, butterfly is also a compound word in English. But in Gaelic, there's many different words for butterflies, but two that I think are really poetic are Jelanje, which means lightning of God, or the related Chena J, which means fire of God. So think about the next time you see a Chena J.
I wanted to come outside again and give you a few more compound words just because they are so fun and so indicative of what Gaelic is like. More compound words, which I think are really fun, is, for example, the word for raccoon. On Gaelic, mahania. Mahania. What is that a compound of? It is actually means washing bear. The bear that washes, right? Because raccoons are famous for, washing their hands in the water and washing their food before they eat. So I think that's just a perfect name, What are we going to call this little thing that doesn't live here but is cute? We're going to call it it washes. Washing bear. Mahania. Similar to another thing that's not in Scotland. Volcanoes. Well, it's going to be Bainhania. Fire mountain, right? Bainhania. Volcano. And even some other things which are kind of like, aren't compound words in English, but are kind of compound concepts, so to speak. Like the word for wardrobe. Like the gateway to Narnia, is a wardrobe, but the word for wardrobe in Gaelic is a compound word, so it's place uti. So it's literally a clothes cupboard. A cupboard for your clothes. If someone from Scotland went to Narnia, they would do so by going through the pres uti.
In addition, Gaelic is known for its focus on Gàidhlig, or lenition, which is when you soften the consonant in a word. And so this essentially means that an H is added to a word to show you that it's been lenited based on the vowels and stuff around it. And so the H can either be silent or it can just change the pronunciation entirely of the word. So for example, the word for beautiful, brie. If you want to say very beautiful, because of the letters that are there, that means that brie is lenited and an H is added, and that changes it to Gàidhlig. The BH is a V sound, usually, and so because you've added an H to the B, that becomes Gàidhlig. Similarly, the word for mother, mahar. If you say my mother, that becomes móvahar. The H is added to the M, and the MV also makes a V sound, and so it becomes móvahar. And this is similar to mutations in Welsh, actually, kind of like how draig can then become
Draig.
So it takes a D and adds another D to it and it becomes a V sound. Yn draig. Or how the word for cat, cath, becomes a gath. The K becomes a G. So this kind of mutation and lenition, this is kind of a thing in these Celtic languages. And because of Gaelic's focus on lenition, it's kind of led to this famous pun, Gales of the world, lenite. Another thing that's interesting about Gaelic is how sometimes there are some words that have epenthesis. And this is just adding an extra sound between two syllables. So the word is pronounced a little bit differently than the way it's written. So the word tadav sounds like there's a little between the tad and the v. And that is epenthesis, tadav. Same thing with the word for Scotland itself. It looks like Alba, like Jessica Alba. It's got epenthesis, so it's Alba. Or how about Glasgow? On Gaelic, Glasgow. It's not Glasgow, even though it's spelled that way. It's Glasgow. Or how about some of the colors? Jerak. It looks like it would be said Jerk, but it's Jerak. It's got a kind of a vowel between those two syllables there. Or the word for blue, gorm. It's not gorm, but gorm. Gorm.
And another thing that makes Gaelic unique is there are different colors depending on what the substance is. If we are talking about something like hair or fur or like wool, there's going to be some different colors involved. So that means there are going to be some animals that you're going to use different colors with because of their fur or the type of hair they have, even for people too, compared to, you know, the normal set of colors that you would get in a box of markers. Think of this as natural fibers for some of the colors versus paint colors, right? That's kind of the distinction here. So the first one we'll go with the normal kind of paint color or color of paper, right, would be gial. Gial means white. But if you are talking about someone who has white hair, or you're talking about an animal with white fur, like a polar bear, like I mentioned earlier, mahan ban, then you're going to use that other word, ban, and that refers to the white hair. You would not say mahan gial, you would say mahan ban. Same thing with red and red hair. Of course, red hair being very prevalent in historically Celtic countries, and especially in Scotland and Ireland. For this, we have the normal kind of color red, jadak. But then if you're talking about red hair or red fur, or even other shades of it, like strawberry blonde or auburn, like my beard is like auburn, kind of coppery, then you're going to use a different word, which is ruig, which is kind of like the word ruddy in English. So we would say the apple is red, an uol jadak, ach, a fiosak ruig, autumn. So Professor Lupin, we cannot use the normal Gaelic word for grey, which is glas. Instead, we have to use a different word, which is lia. Akach lia akum. This is take 3, and he's not very happy about it. And another one, which I think is really interesting, is actually to do with plant life. We have, natural fibers with animals and fur and hair, and then this also extends to plants. All right, so this hoodie that I'm wearing is blue. All right, gorm on Gaelic. Gorm, gensi gorm, a gensi gorm autumn. And this notebook on Gaelic. Uanya. Uanya. Gorm agus uanya. But what color are these leaves? They're actually gorm. Go loose gorm. And that is another really unique thing about Gaelic is blue. The word for blue is actually used for green plants. But when you're talking about, pens and paints and other types of things, then this would be gorm. But if it's plants, then they are gorm. But you would still translate it as green. You're just using the word for blue. And this also seems to pop up in other ancient cultures. I've heard about some cultures that didn't have a word for green, or didn't have a word for blue, or they have the same word for blue and green. It's not just in Gaelic. So if you want me to do a deep dive into that topic, then write, "I'm feeling blue," down in the comments.
Next, some of you all are probably wondering about the sentence structure of Gaelic. Well, unlike English, Gaelic is a VSO language, meaning verb, then the subject, and then the object. So here's an example sentence. Han car jarak ans garage. But this literally means, is the car red in the garage? So when you say it in English, is the car red in the garage? It sounds like a question, but in Gaelic it's a statement. So is the verb, the red car is the subject, and then in the garage is the object. Ha an car jarak ans garage. And you can see because of the A there, an H has been added to the beginning of the word for garage. So instead of garage, it is a garage because of the lineation. Or how about this? Leave me an Bible. Read I the Bible. Technically, with the verb, subject, object. Read I the Bible. Leave me an Bible. And since the first word is often the verb, because of this, you can usually change the tense of the sentence by how you conjugate the first word. For example, if I wanted to say, I made coffee, then there's like two different ways I can do this. I can say, va mi a gin of coffee, or I can say, rein me coffee. See, I changed the conjugation of the verb there. And so the second one, rein me coffee, is actually more natural, since it means more, I made coffee, whereas the first option is kind of like, I was made coffee, or I was making coffee. Va mi was I, a gin of making. I was making coffee, or was I coffee made? So the second one is actually more natural since it's more akin to the literal I made coffee. But both are understandable to a Gaelic speaker to mean I made coffee. And if you are in need of a Gaelic or a Japanese, or in this case a Welsh mug, then check out all of the merch that I've got in my Etsy shop, link down below. Now let's talk about having. Gaelic differs from English and a lot of other languages in how it handles owning or having things. So for example, in English, I'd say my house. But in Gaelic, it's literally the house at me, or antaich acam, antaich acam, the Gaelic for I love you. In Gaelic, when you say hagul acamorst, you're saying my love is on you, or even more literally, the love at me is on you. So poetic.
Next, I want to introduce you to some numbers in Scottish Gaelic. This is, of course, one of the first things that you learn when you're learning language is how to count. And so I want to show you how some of the words, because it's Indo-European, do sound very similar to what you might be used to in English or another Indo-European language, but then some, are quite different. So I'm also going to talk about the way that counting things is different than actually just naming the numbers, whereas those would be the same in English. Like that's 1 apple, 2 apples, 3 apples, and we just 1, 2, 3, it's the same, but they're actually different in Gaelic. So first, I'll go through all of the numbers. Un, da, tri, sounds pretty, similar to English, right? Tri, ceher, coig, shia, seach, och, neu, deich. So that's the actual numbers, right? But if I'm counting objects, like I'm counting items at a grocery store, one by one, then there's actually going to be a different way that you count. And so it's going to make the numbers sound a little different. So pretend I'm actually counting, let's say, apples. A hun, a ra, a tri, a ceher, a coig, a shia, a seach, a hoch, a neu, a deich. So you can see I added like an H there before some of the letters. And that's just one of the differences between, Gaelic and English, in that when you're counting a group of items, you're going to say the numbers a little bit differently as part of a grammatical quirk. Now, there's one other thing that makes the way numbers and counting work in Gaelic different than what you might be used to, and that is how singular versus plural works. You might think that this is a universal concept. One is singular and anything else is plural, right? And on the face of it, that sounds correct, but in Gaelic, it's actually different. 1 and 2 are considered singular, and then anything that's 3 and above is actually plural in Gaelic. So again, if we had apples, in úl, da úl,
Trí úlan.
so we're still using the singular word for apple, even though there's 2 of them. And that is something that I just think is so fascinating and so cool, and what makes Gaelic such an interesting language to learn.
Okay, contextual movement. Another thing I really love about Gaelic, which I ain't seen in any other language that I've studied, is what's called contextual movement. Essentially, the word that you use to describe a place or an adverb, things like that, is based on the location of the speaker in relation to the destination. For example, if I'm inside and I want to go outside, I'll say, Bimi adol amach andras dahin.
Bimi adol amach. Hami amuich. Bimi adol ashtech. Hami astuich anish.
Amach and amuich both mean outside, but which one you use depends on whether or not you're inside or outside. And I think that's so cool. There are also a ton of loan words from Scottish Gaelic into English and vice versa. So if you want to see why I say that you, as an English speaker, kind of already speak a little bit of Gaelic, then you can watch that video up here later. Before I talk about the Gaelic revival that's happening, let's talk about some basic phrases that you can use on your next trip to a Gaelic-speaking area. You could say, for good morning, Matin va. Matin va. Is Misha. Carl. My name is, or I am, right? Is Misha, and then your name. Avel shiv guma. Are you doing well? Are you good? Are you well? Avelu guma. If you're speaking to somebody your own age or younger than you. If you're speaking to a group or someone older than you would say Avel shiv guma. If you want to say excuse me, say Gav moleshkal. Gav moleshkal. Somebody responds to you in Gaelic, Gav moleshkal. Chaniel Gaelic akum. Excuse me, I don't have Gaelic. There is no Gaelic at me. Chaniel Gaelic akum. If you're looking for the bathroom, you can say Kach chevel en teich bik. That literally means where is the little house, which is the bathroom. Kach chevel en teich bik. Or if you want to get something to eat, you can say Han takris oram. Han takris oram. There is hunger on me. Or if you're thirsty, Hamiyageri agol ishkabeha. I want to drink scotch. And then when you have your scotch, you can cheers with it and say slánjava. Slánjava. Or you can shorten it to slánja.
So that is Scottish Gaelic explained, at least from a linguistic perspective. But I'm sure you now have a lot more questions about the history of Gaelic and where it came from and what it's doing now. I mean, I talked about how Gaelic, originated from Old Irish, but how did Scottish Gaelic come from Ireland? How did it spread to the rest of Scotland? And I mean, there's so many other things, like how much of Scotland used to be Gaelic speaking, why did it decline, how many people still speak Gaelic today, is Gaelic even still a living language, is it on life support, or does it have a bright future ahead? If you want to know the answers to those questions and even more, then click right here and watch this in-depth documentary where I chronicle the fascinating rise, fall, and rebirth of Scottish Gaelic. See you over there.